Hey guys, MBSC1 again, and I won Utah Regionals this weekend, and so I thought I would give you guys my Day 1 Seismitoad Slurpuff deck list. So here it is. So to start off with a Pokemon, there are 4 Seismitoad. You just want to start with it and attack with it the entire game, so that's pretty much why you have 4. No real other attacker. Then there's 3 Slurpuff. It used to be 4-4, people were running 4-4 for a while, but I realized that when you have a Jirachi in your deck, you don't really have room for a 4-4 Slurpuff line on your bench, and it feels like you don't really need to be drawing that much, and you can kind of devote the 2 spots to other things that are more important. And then there's 1 Jirachi, and that is all of the Pokemon. Jirachi is incredibly good in this deck because not only will it buy you out of supporter drains, but there are several one-of supporters that have good effects that you need to be able to get whenever you need, like Xerosic, Cassius, Team Flare Grunt, and things like that. So Jirachi is very good in this deck. As for supporters, pretty thick supporter line. There are the obvious draw ones like 4 Sycamore and 4 N. Pretty much every deck runs these. Don't really need to explain it any more than that. There's 1 Chorus. This is just so you can draw a lot of cards, especially in the mirror. This can be good because your opponent can be item locking you, and then it's going to be hard for you to draw the energy you need, so having 1 Chorus is helpful for that. There's only 3 Verse Seeker. I actually had 4 originally, and I cut 1 for the Chorus because I thought it would be more helpful, and it was. But 4 Verse Seeker is very good for getting back all those effect supporters if you can fit it. 3 is fine though. I was happy with 3 all day. I didn't really ever feel like I needed more. And then for the effect supporters, there's 2 Lysander. This is pretty much standard in every deck. You just need to bring up what you need to bring up and knock it out whenever you need to knock it out. I went against a Kling Clang deck actually, and running 2 Lysander is pretty much the only reason why I beat it. I know some Toadpuff decks only run 1, and I think that's definitely a mistake. I think 2 is very needed. There's 1 trump card. This is pretty obvious in this deck because you need to get back all your resources since you burn through the deck really quickly with Slurpuff drawing through your cards. Then you have 1 Cassius. This is just to shuffle Seismitoads back into your deck so that if they're damaged, you can heal off all that damage and then attack with a different Seismitoad. This is really good in the mirror match, or basically just against anything that doesn't one-shot. You can use Cassius to shuffle it back, so it's been very helpful. I definitely would not take it out of the deck. AZ is also a pretty good option because it essentially does the same thing, but I like Cassius more since I only run 2 Muscle Band, and it shuffles back the Muscle Band and the DC, so I think that's more important. And then there is 1 Xerosic. Xerosic is incredibly helpful in this deck. This will get the Floatstone off Keldeo if you go against a deck that runs Keldeo and Floatstone. So that's incredibly helpful because laser damage will accumulate pretty quickly if they don't have a Keldeo to rush and retreat. Also helps for getting off any flare tools that are on your Pokemon, or items off their Pokemon so that you can put your flare tools on their Pokemon. Also good in the mirror because you can get the Muscle Band off an opposing Seismitoad, or a double colorless energy, or any other special energy. So Xerosic has a lot of different use, and it's really good in this deck. And then there's 2 Flare Grunt. I was kind of back and forth about my 2nd Flare Grunt and my 4th Ultra Ball, and then after I decided I didn't want the 4th Ultra Ball, I was back and forth between 2 Flare Grunt and 2 Xerosic, but I knew that Christy Britton ran 2 Flare Grunt when she won Kelly States, so I figured she was probably running it the right way, so I went with a 2nd Flare Grunt. But in hindsight, I'm not sure. I might have gone with a 2nd Xerosic, actually. Xerosic is just super helpful in this deck, and I feel like if I could have done it again, I might have run the 2nd Xerosic. I'm not 100% sure, though. And that's all the supporters. There's quite a few, actually. But yeah, aside from that, I'm very happy with the supporter line. And then for stadiums, this is just 2 Verbank, standard in every Lasers deck. I don't feel like I really ever needed more than 2. I mean, a couple times I guess I wanted a 3rd, but 2 seemed to be fine for me. And then for items, 4 Hypnotoxic Laser. This is one of your main sources of damage aside from Quaking Punch. This will rack up a lot of damage if your opponent can't play items, so that works really well with Toad. I really wouldn't run any less than 4. You pretty much need 4. 1 Commuter Search, kind of like the best A-Spec in the format right now. It just gives you consistency, gets you whatever you need, gets you those one-of supporters in this deck, or the Headringer early game, or the Muscle Band. You know, it's just really good for improving consistency. Then there's 3 Ultra Ball. I wanted a 4th. The only reason why I really wanted a 4th was because Executor was pretty prominent. And if you have more Ultra Balls, it makes it so you can get your Slurpuffs out more quickly. If you get your Slurpuffs out more quickly, then you can keep drawing cards well. Executor stops you from playing supporters. So I wanted the 4th Ultra Ball, but I ultimately couldn't fit it because I felt like I needed to improve my Toad matchup more than I needed to improve my Executor matchup. And then there are 4 Crushing Hammer. This is just discarding energy. Really good with Toad because, you know, you're item locking and doing damage, so if you can shut off their ability to power up Pokemon with Crushing Hammer, then, you know, it just puts you in a good board state, so it's just helpful. I actually flipped a ton of tails with these yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess Regionals was, but it still ended up being helpful. If I could do it again, I would still run the Crushing Hammers, even though I flipped something like 60 to 65% tails, it seems like. And then there's 2 Muscle Band. I wanted a 3rd, but I feel like 2 was sufficient. The thing is, your opponent isn't going to be able to really headringer you past turn 1 because you're item locking them, so they can't play the headringers. So you have time to get the Muscle Band down later in the game. It kind of sucks though, because you know you're low on damage if you don't have Muscle Band down. So I don't know. It's iffy on if I should put another one in. If I had more room, I'd definitely put another one in, but I didn't this time, so I just have the 2 right now. And then there's 2 Floatstone. 2 Floatstone is just so you have free retreat for your Slurpuffs. So if something gets knocked out, you can send up a Slurpuff and then put a Floatstone on it, and then you can use Tasting and get 2 cards because the ability Tasting lets you draw 2 if it's active, and then retreat to your Seismitoad and keep Quaking Punching. And then also, if you have a Switch or an Escape Rope, then you can switch or Escape Rope into the Slurpuff, then draw 2 and retreat back with the Floatstone. So that was really helpful. Also good early game just so you can, you know, bring back whatever you want so that you can Quaking Punch as often as you need. And then there's 1 Escape Rope and 1 Switch. Sorry, there might be a slight glare on those. I am still not sure if I wanted a second Switch instead of the Escape Rope, but I felt like this is definitely the right amount of switching cards needed in the deck. I'm kind of on and off about it. Escape Rope is good against Groudon because you can actually make it so they have to bring the Groudon up. Or, yeah, that's basically it. Sometimes it's helpful just in weird, like, niche situations, but I felt like this worked for me. It never really hindered me. There was never really a time when my opponent got to bring up something that I didn't want them to with Escape Rope, so I was okay with it. And then the last 2 items are 2 Headringer. This is incredibly helpful with Toad because they're item locked, so they can never use anything to get the Headringers off besides Xerosic, and then, or I guess AZ too. And then you have Crushing Hammer, so just the combination of Energy Denial is really hard for them to deal with. Yeah, 2 Headringers is definitely very good, and I like it a lot. So that is it for the items. Yeah, very happy with the items. I think I'm pretty confident that I played like the perfect 60 cards for this deck. I honestly don't think I would change anything if I could do it again, besides maybe the Xerosic, but I'm very happy with it. And then for the energy line, we have 4 double colorless and 4 water. This is actually kind of thick for a Seismitoad deck. Most decks play either 3 water and 4 DC or no water and 4 DC, but the reason why I went with 4 water is because once I tried 4 water, I realized that it's incredibly good. Being able to Grenade Hammer is super helpful, and being able to, you know, power up a Seismitoad on the bench with water, if you're missing your double colorless energy, is really helpful too. It just improves consistency, and then on top of that, it's also good against decks that run Flare Grunt or in the Mirror Match, because if they Xerosic or Flare Grunt and you attach a water to a Seismitoad that already has a double colorless on it, then you can essentially make it so that on the next turn you can guarantee yourself another Quaking Punch because you have a higher chance of drawing another water or another DC. So I definitely would not go down on the 4 water. I think it was very helpful. Yeah, so that's about it. So that's it for the deck list. I'll have my Day 2 Rizine Genesect deck list up later this week. Like the video if you liked the video, comment if you want to tell me something, and subscribe for more. I told you I can... trying to touch things. It's recorded.